Hello.
Sorry, guys, I have no idea what's going on there.
It worked now. We've lost
Is
some
that
people.
okay?
We've lost some people. Hopefully they'll come back, but we've got some people.
Yeah, sorry, guys. I thought it was 8 o'clock. I'm getting very old, you know.
Yeah.
My apologies. Well, here I am.
Yes, good, good. Yeah. What do you do with your dog if you're a very confused person who can't function in the modern world? Hello, Ziggy. Where's it? Oh, you're the best dog. Hello.
Okay.
Hello, Ziggy. You're good. I'm just putting another reminder out. Okay, so thank you for joining us, people who have joined us. I am Mick Wright, and that is Mike Wright, Canine Behaviourist. He's
slightly confused.
Better with dogs than he is with the technology. So, the thing that we're going to start with this week was we were going to talk a bit about dogs and the benefit of having a dog if you're someone who's dealing with trauma, say. And I thought it might be interesting to talk a bit about the work that you've done with veterans and dogs, because that's an interesting story, I think.
Yeah. Well, I got involved with something called the Walnut Tree Health and Wellbeing, which is helping military veterans, people working in the police force and in the military that have experienced mental health trauma, if you like. So they have mental health difficulties like PTSD, those types of things. So talking with my better half, Sue, who's a specialist in mindfulness and mental resilience, she thought it might be a good idea to work together with people and with dogs. So I do two things really. One is something called paw support. And the idea of that is I help a veteran find a dog, not preferably, always from a rescue centre. I pair that dog up with the individual. And the idea is that the dogs are unconditional in their response to people, so they form a very good team. So they encourage people to get out and meet people and to talk and to resume a sort of a normal life that they haven't been doing before. And I do the same for just normal people, and I call that canine companions, but it's the same sort of basis. Help people find the right dog and help them develop a good relationship with said dog.
And a big part of that is obviously, if you have a dog, dogs have a routine that they have to do every day, and it's very helpful to people who maybe have slipped out of having a routine through being, experiencing or dealing with a seriously traumatic experience. Having that routine is so helpful because the dog has that expectation of you to get up and walk.
The interesting thing is that a lot of these people that are suffering with various issues, a lot of them find it difficult to actually communicate with people and indeed go out and meet people in a way that we accept as normal and is no problem. But having a dog forces them to actually leave their home and actually get back into the world a little bit. And it encourages them to meet other people. And indeed, when you've got a dog, people talk with you, particularly if they've got other dogs. So it's very, very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's great. Fantastic. Where can people go if they want to read more about that? Because is this stuff online?
Just visit my website, and that's called www.thecaninebehaviourist.co.uk, and you'll find two different pages there. One's called Paw Support, and the other one is called Canine Companions. Pretty much the same thing, slightly different target individuals.
Cool. Okay, so I'm going to ask you about the first dog that you sort of encountered as a kid, and what I'm hoping is that people in the comments will tell us about their first dog, or whether it's a dog that they had or a dog that they were, able to encounter in one way or another. So, tell us your story about that, because Jasper's a really interesting dog story.
Well, this is probably when I was no more than 7 or 8, maybe. Jasper was our family dog. I use that term family in quotes because I'm convinced, looking back on it, he had at least one home, maybe two homes, maybe even three. We were one of them. So it wasn't a normal dog relationship. So Jasper would literally appear, and he would stay with us for a month or so. He wasn't a dog that you walk traditionally or anything like that. He'd go and walk with you, but we didn't use leads or anything like that. And he would be kind of like a normal dog, and then he'd literally disappear for a month or two. And he'd be seen. This is down in Somerset, where I was born, in Taunton in Somerset, which is a market town. So he'd be seen in the market, and he'd be seen around town. He'd be seen getting on buses and getting off buses again. And then he'd appear maybe a couple months later smelling of silage or some other revolting thing, so we'd have to hose him down in the garden. And he was like that the whole time we had him. In fact, I remember one incident with Jasper when the school, never forget it, the school took us to see Cromwell and the pictures. And so we all got into our bus from the secondary modern school I went to. We went into town. As we went into town, Jasper saw me on said bus, and he got on the bus and joined me upstairs to make his way to wherever we were going. We got to the cinema to watch Cromwell, and we shut him outside because really couldn't come and watch Cromwell with us. Now, of course, Jasper had other ideas than that. And somebody made a mistake of opening the door, and in he came, and he came upstairs to the circle, and where he clambered across everybody to find me and sit down and watch Cromwell with me. At this point, I was ejected from said cinema, and I never did see Cromwell.
Well, apparently it's very good. It's apparently very good.
Yeah.
I believe it's on YouTube. So,
yeah.
Okay, great. Well, and actually, we've got a good story. We've got a sort of much later in your timeline story about. I'll tell this one, and then you can tell your part of it. So,
okay,
there's this rescue dog called Bert, and he was very smart dog, and he used to revise for my exams with me in the garden, and he was very, very smart. And so this must be when I was around, 15, 16, sort of GCSE time. So obviously I'm at the age where my parents are going out and leaving me at home, and quite often the dog's getting out and he's just going off and doing things. And my dad is regularly bollocking me for leaving the windows open, just sensibly. Yeah, my dad, that is you.
I don't remember that.
It's regularly bollocking me for leaving the windows open, and I keep saying, I'm not leaving the windows open. Like, I did it. If I did it once, I wouldn't do it multiple times. Until eventually we realised that we have windows that have clutches that flip up like that. And Bert's really clever. Bert can open doors. Like, if he wants to come in the door, just open it. Just gets up on his back
and open them inwards.
Yeah, and opens them inwards. So it's quite difficult, because if you want to shut yourself in a room to do something, if he wants to come in, he's going to come in, wreck the doors, whatever. But so we discovered that actually what's happening is Bert's opening these, pushing the window open and going out. You discover, and the time you realised this was when, Dad?
Well, when I closed all the windows, and I knew I'd closed all of the said windows, and he still did it, and I found him at the local ATS having a cup of tea with the workers there as I drove by in my car looking for him. Yes, Mike is spot on there.
The door and he just jumped in.
I said, "Have you finished?" He jumped in and he came home again. Yes.
Yeah.
The wonderful Bert.
Yeah, he was a very special dog. He was a very intelligent dog. I mean, I guess a thing that we could talk about a bit is people's misconceptions about dogs and intelligence, because people make a lot of misconceptions about that, and I think that would be interesting if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Intelligence. Well, here's the first thing that people need to understand. One breed of dog isn't more intelligent than another breed of dog. It doesn't happen. So the people that have got their lovely colleagues, border collies, and they say they're the most intelligent dogs, aren't they wonderful? Aren't they terribly clever? Mm, not really. They are easier to train in certain aspects than other dogs. We Mike will probably support me in this, having got an ology. Um, we find it hard enough to actually work out what our IQs are and what our intelligence is. So if you imagine a set of dogs, okay, at one end, let's say you've got a bloodhound, and then you've got 20 or 30 breeds right the way along, and at the other end, you've got your border collie. So you're trying to measure how intelligent these dogs are from that side right the way through to here. So you do some intelligence tests that are based on the border collie's intelligence. So they're herding, rounding up, and corralling sheep, that sort of thing. Brilliant at that, absolutely brilliant. And you try and do the same thing with the bloodhound. Now he's as thick as a brick when it comes to that. He's the dumbest dog in the world. But if you then start to do a few intelligence tests that focus on the bloodhound skills, the ultimate sniffer dog, you'll find that the collie now is as thick as the bloodhound. So intelligence, most of the science would say that they're roughly of similar intelligence, but some dogs are better and easier to train for certain things than others. If that makes sense.
I guess it would be, yeah, I guess it would be fair to say, like even anecdotally, that we had 2 Dalmatians at the same time. And hello, Ziggy, you're the good girl. Are you okay? Oh, you're just listening. That's good. That's good. So we had 2 Dalmatians at the same time, and they were. I think it would be fair to say that Tess was probably, especially in her youth, a sharper dog in some respects than Barney in some ways, but also some of that could be to do with personality, because he just had a more laid-back personality as well.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I think the other point to make about dogs in general, certain breeds have certain characteristics. A Dalmatian is a good example because everybody thinks Dalmatians are scatty and are crazy and they're bouncing around all the time. Well, that's not really true either, because most dog breeds, yes, they do have certain traits that are relatively common across the breed, but dogs reflect the homes that they live in. So if we're in a calm, relatively quiet home, you'd be surprised that your dogs are relatively calm. And in fact, these 2 Dalmatians that Mike talked about, at home, relatively calm dogs, because they were living in a relatively calm environment most of the time.
Yeah, there's definitely, I mean, we talked about this last week, but there's definitely, of all the dogs we've had, they were the most food-driven dogs, I think.
Definitely. Definitely. Tess, the female Dalmatian, we found nothing she wouldn't eat.
Yeah, yeah.
At all.
And whereas, say, Ziggy, like the Dalmatians, if they could get something off the table, they would take it.
Yeah.
Whereas Ziggy won't do that. But what Ziggy does do that the other dogs haven't done, or some of the other dogs didn't do, is she likes to, say, get a slipper and run around with it.
Yes.
Like she likes to find a thing and run around with it. And some of the others didn't do that. So you see these personality quirks.
Well, the slippers and the bringing of underwear into the house and the shaking of towels. I've touched on this before, but that's an example of a dog not being naughty. That's an example of a dog wanting some attention and wanting to play. So if Ziggy brings one of my slippers in, she's wanting me to grab hold of the slipper. So that then turns into let's play tug. Now, if I don't grab the said slipper, she more often than not will lie down and just drop it, or I'll go and sit with her and stroke her and not touch the slipper, and she can't quite work that out because you're meant to be taking this from me. So it's quite an interesting little phenomena.
Yeah, and what you're saying there also is basically if anyone has that issue with a dog, the best thing to do is to ignore it. If they're not being destructive to it, you just ignore it because they get bored and they stop. Yeah,
you're right there, mate. But here's what I would say: if your dog has got your favourite delicate silk scarf or a lovely jumper or whatever it is that is dear to you and you don't want it damaged, and your dog grabs it and you think there's any risk of it being damaged and you want it back, the thing to do is try ignoring her first of all. And if it looks like the dog's going to go into the next mode, which is having a bit of a tug and a pull holes into it, well, then you intervene and you hold the item while it's in the dog's mouth. But what you don't do is you don't play tug with it. So you hold the item on the mouth like that. Correct. So as the dog pulls, you just go with the dog. So you don't turn it into a game. I'll often grab Ziggy under the chin like that, very gently. I'm not hurting her. Just grab her very gently, and I'll just hold on to it, and we'll just sit there. And we won't do anything. And she will, 99.9% of the time, then go, oh well, I'll just let it go. And then she gets a lot of praise. What a good dog, and away you go.
Yeah.
But if you turn it into a game, you've got no chance, And don't ever go down the route of, oh well, it's all right if they've got an old slipper. You see a lot of people do that. And this is a bit old hat, I know, but got an old slipper. It's all right for them to destroy. That's fine. But here's the thing: your dog doesn't know whether your brand new spanking beautiful leather slippers are for tearing and ripping up, as opposed to the old 10-year-old one. So you've got to be very clear in your signal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they can't.
But also, the good thing to do is like, well, Ziggy has a basket full of toys that are her toys. Yeah. She understands those items are her things, and that's good as well, because that's quite delineated. Yeah. It's like, here, you have some things, they're your things.
Yeah.
These things aren't your things. Not that she can stick to that all the time, but she sticks to it pretty well.
Yeah.
If anyone has a question and is in the chat, just stick your question in the chat and we will answer it. Otherwise, we will just talk about more things, because that's what we do. But Swain says, I've heard of cats behaving like Jasper, but dogs. I was like, well, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
But then again, Fat Cat, who lives near me, the cat, he's very dog-like. So people do see that in cats sometimes. You experience these more dog-like cats. So
yeah. Well, just to be fair, is it? How do I pronounce that? Is it Gwyneth? Is that Gwyneth? Swain. Sorry, Swain. My apologies. Jasper was quite unique, Swain. I've never come across a dog like that, and I haven't since. He was very, very unusual. But yeah, cats can often behave in a similar way to dogs and vice versa. Not highly common, but it happens.
I wonder to a certain extent whether Jasper was a product of the 60s and 70s, in the sense of the town. There's more green space around the town then than there is now, and also people's attitudes towards dogs. Like, there were a lot of farm dogs, for instance, who would be left out in the yard to roam and stuff. Farmers still do that, but not so much. So I wonder whether we don't see as many dogs like Jasper anymore, because the way we think about and treat dogs has changed quite a lot as well.
Well, these days he'd be picked up and put in a pound. He'd be picked up. He wouldn't be allowed to be roaming around.
The whole cultural thinking around dogs is so different, post the Dangerous Dogs Act and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, indeed.
So, which is quite a bad piece of legislation in any number of ways. But
yeah. I say again.
We could talk about that, actually. That's an interesting
topic. Well, it's interesting. I follow a lot of various dog-related pages, and I do read some very distressing stories. I know for a fact that there's a guy that walks a pit bull in the park where I go. I know it's a pit bull, and it's a delightful creature, very, very friendly, but very, mild-mannered dog with everybody and other dogs. Certain breeds get very bad reputations. I mean, people think bull terriers are aggressive and dangerous and all the rest of it. When in fact they are yet another one of the dogs that are called nanny dogs. They are beautiful dogs with a fantastic nature, but in the wrong hands, like any dog actually, it doesn't matter what dog it is, a Chihuahua can do you some damage. in the wrong hands, they become trophy animals, and you can train them to fight. But here's the thing about a dog like a bull terrier. Bull terriers, as a general rule, don't go looking for fights. They don't go looking for aggravation. But trust me, if you want to take it to them, they do not back down. You know, the phrase,
Yeah.
do you want a piece of me? You say that to them and they will give you a piece of them. You know, so I think it's it is a flawed piece of legislation. I think we do need to keep dogs under control, but it needs looking at again, I suspect.
I think it's applied very unevenly, and some of the fundamental underlying assumptions in it are wrong. Like, because what you're just saying, like a lot of tabloid stuff around devil dogs and whatever is just not the case. And what's also true is in a big city like London, you see a lot of dogs. I encounter people. I keep my distance, but I've seen plenty of people who have trained dogs to be fighting dogs. You see them on a certain type of lead, often a chain lead. You can tell that dog has been trained to be aggressive, and you can see it in them, but always in their shoulders. You know, they're really kind of forward and head forward. So I don't believe the Dangerous Dogs Act has done very much to prevent that, because all that's happened is people who train good dog owners aren't doing that, but are often face issues or can face issues on the Dangerous Dogs Act. But the ones who are bad owners and who are going to do that stuff, they're doing it anyway. So I don't think it's made that much of a difference.
I think it's a very difficult problem. If it was up to me, I would take the dogs away from these individuals, and I would readjust the dog's behaviour so they can be returned into a proper home, because it's possible to do that. It's not easy, but it's possible to do that.
Yes, you're right.
But of course, as you say, they'll just go out and get another one. It's difficult.
But the thing as well, as I think that some people may not agree with this, but I think that animal cruelty sentences are never strong enough. We should treat cruelty towards animals in the same way that we treat cruelty towards children, and the punishment should be equal to that. So if you
to be fair,
a dog, you should get a custodial sentence.
Well, to be fair, Mike, the Animal Welfare Act allows for that, and it has some. You can get up to something like 10 years, but it's never ever applied.
But it's never applied. That's the point. You're right.
That's correct.
In the legislation,
it's never applied.
Not being applied.
Let me put it this: I'd make it even more simple. I don't want to get too political here. I'd rather answer questions about dogs, but I'd make it very, very simple. If you abuse a dog or are cruel to a dog in any way, shape, or form, and you're proven to do that, you should be banned from having dogs again, period. Not as it happens at the moment. You'll have someone who's been breeding dogs in horrible conditions, and they've gone in and they found dead dogs and whatever it is, they get banned for 2 or 3 years, and then they're allowed to do it again.
Yeah, I agree. So, taking a switch to a more pleasant thing, which is we believe, like our family, like one of the kind of core beliefs in our family, and something that you stress a lot when you talk to other people, is the best thing to do if you want to get a dog and you're in the right place to get a dog, and that's something we've talked about before, and we don't really need to go over like what you need to have in your house to get a dog. But if you're in the right position to get a dog, you should get a rescue dog. Yes. The question I think is interesting is, how do you, when you're at the rescue centre and you're seeing dogs, like, what is it for you personally that makes you go, this is the dog that, this is the right dog, this is the dog that needs to be in this family?
Well, let me just roll that back a little bit, Mike, just a little bit. Before I even get to the rescue centre, there's some important questions that have to be asked and answered before you even get to that stage. So question number 1 is, what is your home environment? What is your life? And what is your life like?
What I'm saying is,
right. Hang on.
We've covered that stuff.
Before you go there, you answer those questions. Can you fit a dog into your life and give it what it requires? But then when you go, to be honest, we've rescued. I think Ziggy is our fifth or sixth dog now, all rescued. Sue, Mike's mother, and myself, we've never gone into a rescue centre looking for a specific dog or a specific breed or something that looks lovely. We've gone there with the premise and the only concern in our mind to give a dog a home. That's it. And it doesn't matter what it is. We've rescued 2 Dalmatians. We've rescued the lovely Ziggy because she needed a home. She came from a home where she was abused, you know. And we just go in to look for a dog we think we can help. Let me go back to Bert. Bert's a very good example.
Hold on just 1 second before we get into Bert, and Bert is a great example. Obviously, the one caveat that you've got, that you do have in it is, you may have a lifestyle where having a small dog might be more suitable than having a big dog, for instance. So you're always going to have that. There are some criteria you might go in with.
Yeah.
You know, because you could have a lifestyle that does suit you having a dog, but a small dog might be better for you because big dogs just require extra levels of things.
For example, Mike, if you live in a small flat, you don't want a St. Bernard.
No, exactly.
You know, so you're absolutely on the money there. Your home environment has to be right for whatever type of dog you end up going for. But
exactly.
I just would say, when you go to a rehoming centre, just be fairly flexible, you know, and don't be put off by the attitude of some of them. These days, a lot of rescue centres, unfortunately, seem to be more concerned with reasons not to allow you to rehome a dog than reasons to rehome a dog. That's where I think the behaviour stuff needs to come in a little bit more. So, for instance, the amount of times I've heard no good with children, must be only dog, etc. That's done for the protection of the rehoming centre and to hopefully not bring dogs back. However, we're doing dogs a disservice by doing that. You know, if we work with them properly, most dogs you can bring into all sorts of environments with common sense and help.
Yeah, 100%. So let's talk about Bert, because like you say, Bert's a good example.
Well, Bert, let me just tell you first of all how I came to have a dog first of all. Okay, as anybody here last week, I'm ex-Royal Navy, so I left the Navy in 1987, and I went into the medical world. I was on the road selling all sorts of medical equipment, and I used to drive. I live in Norfolk, and I used to drive past the Wood Green Animal Shelter, and I'd always wanted a dog. And I went in there one day, and I said, I really like a dog, but I've come in to look at some cats, because cats were easier. I felt cats would be easy to look after, you know, because my wife works.
And you've had cats as well.
Yeah, no, I love all animals, you know. But I remember I was just leaving, and I said to him, you know, I could easily take a couple of cats. I really love a dog, but hey, I'm on the road, and it's not fair enough. And at this time, they were euthanizing dogs. They couldn't keep them. The cats, they had thousands of them in there, and there was no problem looking after them. And they said to me, where do you think the dog would rather be? At home, sometimes alone for a few hours, or on death row? Perfect salesmanship for me. You know, a few weeks later, we're at home with our first dog, Honey, that Michael remembers as well. But Bert was our second rescue. He was very interesting. Back in the 80s, I think it was the late 80s, there was a big foot and mouth outbreak. So dogs weren't getting rehomed. They'd been in there a long time, a lot of these dogs. And Bert had been in the rescue centre for about 6 months. And he'd become totally closed in.
This was the 90s.
Sorry?
This was the 90s. It was the foot and mouth outbreak in the 90s.
Oh, well, that's it. Well, that's then. Well, yeah. So I remember I went in there with Sue, my better half, and we walked past his cage, and there was Bert, and he was in the back of the cage, and he wasn't coming to anybody, but he came to us. there's your choice. There's your
Yeah.
choice. As far as I was concerned, he needed a home, and he was looking at us saying, "Come on, you'll do for me." So we took him home from there. You know, so sometimes it's just like a gut feeling. Little Ziggy here. The reason we got Ziggy is because Sue saw an advert in the paper for her, and she wasn't even up for adoption. And we went to the rescue centre, and she wasn't even on show. But here she is with us, and she's been with us for 5 years now. You know, so to answer your question, Mike, it's you have to have an overall view of what sort of dog you can manage, if you like. But then it's sort of like in your gut a little bit. You know,
well,
you
you see, I basically
it,
knew what,
you know.
I basically, as I usually do on this, knew what the answer would be, and that's what I was kind of pushing for, which is like, you got to know about the instinct type of thing. Like, if the dog is, part of it is, once you've got all your checklist done in your head, and you know, the home is right, I'm ready to get a dog, I know what sort of size of dog I can cope with. You meet the dog, you will know with the rest. There's
Swain
sense,
gets it. I can see your comment here, Swain. All dogs I've shared a home with have been rescued. Good on you. You get my vote.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the other thing is really important is that, and we should talk about this bit, is that it's like you say, sometimes rescue centres can put you off somehow in ways because they're trying to protect their asses. But also, rescue dogs are not. Well, the way I would say is like, it's like with children. You can't you don't expect like toddlers to be easy, right? They're just not. There's a lot of joy to be had with looking after a toddler, but they will also like smear their own shit on the wall, and like you've got to like cope with that to a certain extent. You know, things will happen that are difficult, and with rescue dogs, that's what people have really got to be aware with. Initially, with a rescue dog, you can have a very sharp learning curve, and also all sorts of things can come out that you didn't realize the dog had. Things that Ziggy, for instance, can be very head shy because probably someone's hit her at some point, and there are certain things that you've got to do with Ziggy that you wouldn't do with those dogs.
Yeah, you make a very valid point, Mike. Here's the thing: people think rescue dogs are harder than bringing a puppy into your life. Well, trust me, puppies need specific care and a specific program, and trust me, they're no easier than a rescue dog. A rescue dog will bond to you very, very quickly. They really appreciate, in my humble view and my experience. My only other comment I would say is, because I'm a behaviourist, but when you take a rescue dog, think very carefully about what you're bringing on board. Make sure that you get some good advice from the rescue centre. Hopefully they should have a behaviourist if the dog's got any issues. Because, of course, not every dog you bring into a home is going to have issues. Some of them will, some of them won't. But if you're prepared to take them on and put a bit of work into them, trust me, the rewards you get will far outnumber and outweigh the effort you put into it. And the last thing you mentioned, Mike, this bit about not understanding the dog initially, I compare it a little bit like peeling an onion, you know, and there's layers. And when you have a rescue dog, it might have experienced all sorts of things that don't come to light until months after you've had the dog. Actually, months. You know, I mean,
that is the thing, isn't it? Because the thing is, as well, is that you've got to realise with a rescue dog is that you're bringing a rescue dog into a new environment, and of course, like Christmas, for instance, is a really interesting example, right? Because suddenly there's like your behaviour as humans that it's got used to. There's all this new behaviour because Christmas is an unusual time of behaviour and like presents and stuff, things that are wrapped up, you know, new smells. Not that it's bad, it can be really good. Dogs find it very exciting, but it's a new thing, and you might see behavioural things you don't see in the day-to-day.
No, you're absolutely right, Mike. You just have to just pay attention to them, because they're seeing things every day, and some of these things might be brand new to them, or they might be bringing up memories of either good things or more likely bad things that have happened to them in the past. Bert was a good example of that. When we got Bert home for the first time, I thought, I know, I'll play with Bert. So I got an empty kitchen roll, so just a cardboard. I said, go on, Bert, you know. And he shrank away from me. He hid under a table. He was petrified. I might as well have had a baseball bat in my hand. So you can probably surmise from that he'd been in an environment where there was either family strife in the household, or indeed he'd been hit. You know, so you just got to be prepared for some of the odd things that might crop up.
Yeah, and he was never like huge with toys, really.
Yeah. No. What's this? I've got a little bit here about Tara, character female. I can see a bit of it. Can you see that?
Oh,
Mike?
I can read it. I've got the whole thing. I've got, yes.
Yeah.
Says, we were supposed to adopt Alfie's sister, but when we went to visit them, we realised that with Tara already quite a characterful female, we would be better to get a male dog. Also, he seemed a better fit when we met him. Yeah, exactly. Like, that's making the right calls, you know.
Yeah.
But
that's
what was I saying?
Say again, Mike.
No, I was going to say, so Bert wasn't very much a toy guy. He wasn't that into toys, but what he did get into was swimming, which initially he didn't. You had to encourage him into swimming, but once we got into it, he's like the most swimmingest dog that we've had, I think. Apart from
I spend most of my life getting dogs in water, Mike. In the summer months, I'm the Burke in the river playing with the dogs. I think getting dogs in water is a fantastic thing to do for them. Yeah, nothing more joyful than seeing a dog in the water.
They really like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it also makes it super easy, really good in this hot weather that's coming up. If you've got a dog and you're near a good safe bit of water, get your dog swimming, get in there with them. It's really good. Obviously, with all the right caveats about making sure it's safe for yourself and the dog, but you know.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
The other tip I was going to mention with the hot weather, which is something you do, Dad, and you can probably jump off from this and say some other things, is I always say to people when I visit them and it's hot, get some water, put it on the dog's head. That it really helps because the evaporation cools them down. A lot of people don't seem to know that, and it's a really good tip. So maybe just we'll maybe finish off today with just a few tips about dogs and the hot weather and how you handle it, what you do to make it easier on Ziggy, because I mean Ziggy's a very heavily coated dog. Okay, well
I used to teach doggy first aid. I'm an ex-naval medic, so first aid and heat exhaustion. Dogs suffer from it. You've got to remember they're wearing fur coats, so it's still about 22, 23 degrees out there today. And here's Ziggy. Right? Now, Ziggy, if I got up and ran around, she would do nothing better than delight to run around and play with me. Whereupon she will suffer the effects of heat badly, and she has been prone to go into almost like a fit. So here's some general advice about hot weather. Rule number one, if you're going to take your dog out and it's going to be hot, you take them out very early before it gets hot, or you take them out very late when it's cooled down. Or if you are going to take them out and it's warm, depending on what type of dog you are, Ziggy, for instance, is very hairy. She's got a multiple layered coat. So I'll take her up to the woods where there's a river. And the very first thing I'll do is I'll get her in the water and she'll have 10, 15 minutes just swimming, enjoying herself, fetching balls, sticks or whatever, and I'll go in there with her. Then we'll walk along the river, and then we'll go in again, and we'll do that, for maybe half an hour. She gets fantastic exercise, but she's kept cool. If you allow a dog to overheat, you can pretty end up with a dead dog. Let me just tell you a few things that drive me insane with people with dogs. Don't strap a dog to you and go running. Don't strap a dog to your bike and go cycling. They don't enjoy it. It's extremely stupid and it's extremely dangerous. We even now have a sport called canicross. Now, canicross is where runners, athletes, fit athletes, they strap a dog to their waist and they go running with them cross country. Therefore, canicross.
We don't
and
mean
it's a
strap,
wonderful thing.
Attach. You mean attach, where you can saying strap. It sounds like they're
attached. Yeah, attached to the, yeah. That's it. That's it. And then they go running, and they love it. Now, let me just be very clear. No, they don't love it. They're doing it because they're being forced to do it. So if you're a runner and you want to run, great, got no problem with it. You don't take your dog. If you're a cyclist, you want to cycle, great as well. You don't take your dog. If you're going to take your dog out, it's your dog's time and you walk with your dog. That's it. Okay? And you allow the dog to do what a dog should be doing. So that's stopping and sniffing, getting in the water, playing with other dogs, meeting other people, all those sorts of things. You don't do it in combination with something else. Sorry, Mike.
Going past the walking stuff's great, and we kind of got that, and that's good.
Yeah.
But there are some other things that you do when it's hot with Ziggy. So there's some things like, you know, if you're lucky enough to have have a garden and a patio door, for instance, you always have the patio door open, but you have the curtains drawn, so closed, so that you've got a cool room. There's quite a few things that you do to help her.
No, you're absolutely right. And also, if your dog is the one that likes water and will go in a paddling pool, get yourself a paddling pool. Now, I've got a big doggy paddling pool. I fill it up. Ziggy doesn't go in it unless I'm in it. So I have to go in it with her, you know. Or during the day, I'll give her a bit of a hose down. I'll cool her down because actually giving her a bit of a drench in the garden with the hose, you cool down by evaporation. Okay, humans do the same thing. You mentioned that earlier, Mike.
No, I was about to say, because the science thing of that is dogs don't sweat, right? They don't sweat because
they sweat a little bit through their paws, but minuscule.
Yeah, exactly. But physically, the rest of their body doesn't really sweat. So what you're doing when you get a dog wet like that is it's doing the sweating. It's essentially giving them the effect of a sweating process with the evaporation.
Yeah. Well, the evaporation cools you down, you see. It cools you down. Yeah, you're helping them regulate their temperature.
Yeah, but that's the reason we have sweat. Is the sweat is there to partially to get stuff out of us, but also it evaporates and has a cooling effect.
That's right. Well, you're right. The dog can't do that. That's why they pant like demons when they're hot. That's them trying to cool down. So you help them where you can.
That's a very inefficient way of cooling down. Okay, well, that is good. Also, stuff you could do, like put ice cubes in their water if they like that, which some of them do.
Well, Ziggy's been lying on the sofa with an ice pack on this afternoon. We've got a very big ice pack.
Yeah.
So we freeze that, wrap it in a towel so it doesn't hurt her, lay it on top of her, and she cools down and goes to sleep. Yeah,
that's good.
None of it's rocket science. It's fairly just common sense. I wish
someone would do that for me today, to be honest.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
So, we will remember, when I end this thing, I'm going to remember to save the video, so we'll be able to share this so people can rewatch it. Thank you very much, Swain, for publicising this on Twitter, as you've done so well past couple of days. That was really helpful.
Yeah, thank you, Swain.
We will do the same again next week, same time. Dad will turn up on time this time because I'll remind him.
Yes, I will.
What I'll do
I'm hanging my head in shame, really. Yeah.
What I'll do this week, and Dad, you can do this as well via your Facebook page and wherever, is I'm going to solicit questions this week. So get people to, and anyone on now, if you know people who haven't been on the call but have got questions, or you think have got dogs that they should have questions about, maybe encourage them to watch next week. But we'll do a Q&A special next week, so I'll try and get as many questions as possible, and we'll just rapid fire go through the questions and see if we can answer a load of dog queries next week.
Yeah, excellent.
So 8 p.m. again, says Swain. Yes, okay, cheeky. Thank you.
Swain, you see my picture. I'm no spring chicken.
Yeah. Yeah. So 7 p.m. next week on Wednesday. Brilliant. Thank you very much again, Dad, for a good show, and we will be back again next week.
Excellent. All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for tuning in, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Save it, Mike. Bye.